next one here, this survey here with reading, they asked us to do two things. They want us to compare, when it's all said and done, what impact of increasing the level of confidence, going from a 90% confidence interval to a 95% confidence interval, what does that do on the margin of error? Does it make it bigger? Does it make it smaller? So I went ahead and preloaded some of that information in here. We're going to go in and do a one sample T or V or Z interval is what we're going to go through. We're going to use the calculator. So when I do my one prop Z interval, I'm going to do the 90% one first. That's the data I'm going to type in for X, N, and this confidence level. So stats over to test, down to option A, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in there 481, 700, and we want to do a 90%, so 0.90. Go down and hit calculate, and that tells me my confidence interval with this information put in there for the 90% one gives me 0.65, that's yucky, 0.65832, and then to 0.71597. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to just change the confidence interval to 0.95. So I'm going to go back into stat, go over to test, over to option A, and all I'm going to do is go down to the confidence level and change it to 0.95. And let's see. My confidence interval here is 0.6528, and then it's 0.72149. So now it may be hard to look at what's going on here. So I'm going to bring the red one over here to the side and just put it underneath of it, 0.6583, and then we have 0.71597. So as I compare these two things, they're not the same. They shift a little bit here, and so as I look at it, just make sure I typed I got everything down there in there correct. Just make sure I didn't make a goofy mistake. That looks good. Let me do it one more time, doing the other one with the 90%, just to make sure I didn't have happy fingers. Change that back to a 0.9. 65832, sure, and then 7159. Okay. So what happens here is, as if we find the difference between the two, what we will notice is that by going up, as increasing the confidence interval, I actually made my difference wider between the two. And it's hard to tell right now because we have a little bit of shifting with the X value, the left bound, the lower bound taking place here. But if I go, if I say, okay, what's the distance between 0.72149 minus 0.6528, we see that the total distance between the upper bound minus the lower bound, that total distance is 0.06869. When I do the next one and I say what is 0.71597 minus 0.6583, I get on that one it is 0.05767. So what happened here is we actually made the interval wider by increasing the confidence level. So this interval is a wider interval up top here because we increased the confidence level. So the margin of error got bigger is what happened here, is what ends up happening. Again, if you want to check a little bit more, what you could do is, all right, let's just divide both of these by 2, because that's, as we worked in class, if I subtract the upper and lower bounds and divide by 2, I can find the margin of error. So if I divide both of those answers by 2, I'm just going to grab the first one divided by 2, and that gives me my margin of error for this one for the 95% is 0.03435, and the margin of error for the second one would be, grab the second decimal, divided by 2, would give me 0.028835. So this was the 90% confidence interval margin of error. By going to a 95, we made it actually bigger, is what we ended up doing. If you end up going from a bigger confidence interval to a smaller confidence interval, then your margin of error gets smaller because your interval, your total interval of your confidence interval gets smaller.